So it's a kind of a rare opportunity to look at this crisis in a deeper way from a Marxist perspective. That slide is really just to set the scene that we're not setting out to find a solution within capitalism, but as Marx said, to replace the current system with a higher one. But in order to do that, we have to understand what's going on with the current system and see where we're at. So on Wednesday, in a plethora of warnings to countries across the world, the IMF issued this very, very severe warning to the US, which was very contradictory in itself, because most people know the IMF was created after the Second World War really to represent American interests around the world. And now the IMF has turned on its creator and said, you have to start doing what the rest of the world is doing, cutting debt. But it's backed up really with these attack dogs, which you can't quite see there, but actually that's labelled the credit rating agencies, which are already have put America on warning that its AAA status will be downgraded if it fails to come up with a solution. And clearly they're not able to come up with a solution, or at least they haven't so far. And today's headlines in the Daily Telegraph put it more starkly. There's a political crisis, a standoff. Obama's really been deprived of his power in a way, although he has additional powers he can apply, which it is predictable will a constitutional crisis, because he can overrule any decisions taken in the Senate if he chooses to do so. But, Congress is all playing with fire, and the minutes are ticking. It's Tuesday, and we have yet to come up with a solution, because we argue there is no solution that we can come up with, and I'll get to that later on. So, stock markets are on their way down very rapidly. People are just heading for the hills, buying gold. Gold's gone up beyond $1,600 an ounce, never seen before in the history of the planet. And it's not a crisis, of course, that's restricted to the US. It's affecting the whole of the world now. And Spain is next on the list in Europe after Cyprus, which physically blew up a couple of days ago when there was an explosion next to the main source of power for Cyprus, entirely coincidental, presumably. And so the government's resigned, and all hell has let loose there. There's a kind of consequence of what's going on in Greece. So that's more or less my analysis of the crisis. I'm sorry, Phil, that's as far as we're going to go in describing where the crisis has got to. Just accept that this is an enormous unresolved crisis for the moment, and now we're going to set out to see how we've got there. And I'm not going to go through an exhaustive history of the 20th and 21st century, but these are the key moments during the crisis which we have to find an explanation for if we're to understand where we are in the current crisis. And as you can see, we've been through 2 world wars, interrupted, you could say, by the crash of 1929. And I've got these bracketed initials, JMK. Some of you will know it stands for John Maynard Keynes, whose theories were developed during the period in between the wars and ignored, apart from in Japan, and then they began to be applied